Haunting of the old mill. The old mill stood hunched on the hill, a skeletal silhouette against the bruised twilight sky. A relic of a forgotten era, it remained stubbornly anchored to the land, its weathered timbers whispering tales of toil and tragedy. We were warned not to go there, of course. Stories of restless spirits and malevolent entities swirled around the mill, passed down through generations like chilling bedtime whispers. But we were teenagers, fueled by a reckless disregard for caution and a thirst for forbidden thrills. Jake, Zoe, Ryan and I crept through the overgrown field, flashlight beams dancing ahead to light the way. I glanced back nervously at the distant town lights twinkling benignly at the foot of the hill. What were we doing out here on this remote and barren rise in the dead of night? My bravado faltered with each step that took us farther from the safety of home and hearth. Jake strode ahead eagerly, face set with anticipation. He was the ringleader, the one who dared us to come explore the reputedly haunted ruins. Ryan and Zoe bantered and giggled as couples do, more focused on each other than our mysterious destination looming out of the night fog. I alone seemed to feel the heavy weight of doom hanging mute and ominous over the abandoned mill as we drew near. Apprehension warred with foolhardy pride in my mind. I couldn't lose face by backing out now from the others' playful dares, yet why did each shadow-draped building we passed seem to watch us with silent foreboding? Jake halted, hazel eyes glinting with mischief as he turned to face us. "Who's brave enough to stay here till dawn?" he challenged with a roguish grin. The other two chuckled nervously. I craned my neck, staring up at the decrepit mill. "I dunno, Jake. This place gives me the creeps." He smirked. "What's the matter, scared?" I bristled, rising to his taunt. "You wish. Fine, lead the way, tough guy." Jake's grin broadened as he turned toward the mill once more. I thought I glimpsed a flicker of movement within those sagging doorways gaping ominously like toothless mouths as we drew closer. A heavy silence descended upon us. The autumn wind, which had been howling earlier, died down completely, leaving the air thick and stagnant. The closer we got, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, a weight pressing down on our chests, constricting our lungs. We entered the mill single file, wary gazes probing the gloom. Within, the cavernous building was an eerie labyrinth of creaking floorboards, rust-eaten machinery and dust-laden cobwebs draping down from the shadowy heights like delicate shrouds for the dead. Jake shone the flashlight slowly around. "Where are the ghosts then?" His cocky words rang hollow, muted somehow by the heavy atmosphere. But his careless bravado spurred me forward. I tried affecting nonchalance as I wandered over to examine a large, old-fashioned millstone half buried in debris. But when I glimpsed my reflection in its smooth surface, I froze. Because the pale face peering back was not my own. I stumbled backwards, heart in my mouth as the others hurried over asking what was wrong. But when I glanced with dread at the millstone again, only my own face looked fearfully back. "I'm seeing things," I muttered, shaking my head. Jake squeezed my shoulder. "Hey, we got you. Just jitters." But his easy words faltered as we all heard it. Whispers, swirling furtively around us like dead leaves in an eddy of wind. I wheeled around, peering about wildly as the suzerations teased mercilessly, fading out whenever I turned towards them. The others held clenched fists to mouths, stifling panicked cries. Jake stood rigid, eyes darting around as he swung the flashlight beam wildly trying to glimpse the source. Shadows leapt and twisted in the fitful light, shifting into grotesque forms against crumbling brick walls encrusted with moss and lichen. Then Zoe shrieked, pointing a trembling finger towards the alcove beneath a stone archway where steps lead down into unfathomable darkness. All eyes followed the unwavering finger to behold the dread sight, a tall, spindly shape seeming to coagulate from wisps of shadow into implacable beam. We all stood riveted by shock and primal fear, gazing wide-eyed at the nightmarish entity observing us with luminous eyes. Delicate gray fingers stretched forth, as though beckoning, and the whispers resolved into mocking laughter echoing all around. Panic exploded into action. We turned and fled, the creature giving chase with gleeful cries exulting in our terror. Sunken doorways gaped suddenly before us as we plunged blindly through narrow byways lined with cobwebs, rotted beams and strewn implements from the mill's bustling past. Disembodied whisperings harried us from all directions, now resembling agonized wails, now demonic shrieks hungry for the pounding hearts and frantic breaths of prey. In my panicked flight, I was separated from the others. Jake's flashlight beam wildly illuminated disjointed glimpses of horror, Ryan's contorted face vanishing into darkness, a gnarled hand dragging Zoe's kicking form through a jagged hole in a brick wall, coming to a jarring halt against something large and cold. I gasped at the obstacle, then cried out, realizing it was the millstone. I cowered behind it, my only shield against the lurking terror. Then over my hoarse sobs and pounding heart, I detected a new sound. Chittering, furtive skittering, drawing closer across the grit-strewn floorboards. The wavering flashlight revealed a skeletal, hunched figure dragging itself swiftly on four gnarled limbs towards my refuge. Black beads of eyes fastened hungrily on me, gleaming with predatory lust. Jagged teeth jutted in all directions amidst inky wisps trailing from its fangmaw like ephemeral smoke. Behind it dragged a malformed leg with the remains of a jean cuff, Jake's jean cuff. A scream tore from my throat as I fled this fresh horror. The toe of my sneaker caught on a warped floorboard, sending me sprawling. Instantly the gibbering fiend was upon me, bated breath redolent with a grave gusting against my face as clawed fingers encircled my neck. Precious air was choked off. Strength rapidly left my thrashing limbs. A resounding clang rang out, reverberating through the vast mill. The weight pinning me down vanished. I sucked air desperately into starved lungs, rolling over to confront my savior, or new threat. But no one living stood over my prostrate form. Yet neither did the creature. I spotted a rusty old shovel lying nearby that must have fallen to strike the demon. But what diverted its fall? Bewildered, I rose shakily to my feet, peering about in dread for my assailant. But no movement stirred the stagnant air now. An uncanny silence blanketed the entire building. Only motes of dust swirled lazily in the stray moonbeams piercing through ragged holes in the roofline high above. I staggered over to the discarded flashlight, miraculously unharmed from all the chaos. With a silent prayer I switched it on again. The frail beam illuminated empty corridors swirling with dust eddies which cast phantasmagoric shadows. Peeling signs reading office and classing room indicated more mundane functions from the mill's heyday. What had transpired to twist it into the hellish haunt it had become tonight? I knew then with sinking certainty that no benign agencies had intervened on my behalf. Rather, the vengeful spirit inhabiting the ruined mill seemed to be toying with me, as the spider toys with a fly to spice its victory. But why? What could it hope to gain now that it had already claimed my friends, and possibly my very soul? Or was it that this eldritch beast feasting on fear derived its entire existence from terrorizing any souls foolish enough to trespass here? Forcing them to plumb the depths of primal panic before snuffing their physical forms to set the metaphysical forms free? So it could feed eternally on the lingering anguish as restless spirits chained forever to its domain. My mind reeled with appalling revelations hinted at by the ancient structure's grisly heritage. I recalled now the bedtime tales of my childhood, meant to ward away inquisitive souls from this accursed hilltop, tales of a demon called forth by ambitious men seeking to expanding production beyond nature's bounds, heedless of the damages wrought upon the land and people shackled to toil for their profit. When at last the worn fabric of reality rent by their greed spilled forth the entity into our world, it demanded the blood sacrifice of the eldest child of each mill worker bound to the accursed place. Now, the full horrific truth glared balefully at me with unseen eyes. This towering relic of human pride run amok had become flesh made for the devouring spirit birthed on that long ago midnight when the damned ritual opened a doorway between worlds better left unbreached. The mill now existed as portal, trap and trophy hall for the insatiable creature, forever seeking fresh victims to replenish its dwindling reservoir of terrorized souls existing partially outside time's constraints. With these dire revelations, icy needles of horror traversed my spine. What significance now had my paltry remaining heartbeats or movements of insensate flesh controlled by an invaded nervous system? I was naught but receptacle transporting terrorized spirit already claimed by the beast crouched unseen beside me awaiting my realization that all hope perished the moment I succumbed to arrogant defiance of realm boundaries and set foot on the hill holding the mill. This sentient pile of malignity had dwelt here through generations of my family line, harvesting foolish errant children straying too near its lair. The awful truth crushed me to my knees. My ancestors, the missing babes of old, my companions, all were mere tidbits for this immortal demon's endless feast. It had consumed so very many over the years, what were a few more lost souls from my time to its insatiable gullet? I wept upon the creaking floorboards, releasing tears of grief and despair and rage until spent. Then I simply awaited release, too hollowed out now to resist or rage against my ghastly fate.